Good evening, everybody.
Kavod Harav, how are you?
Baruch Hashem, nice to see you. Nice to hear from you.
Baruch Hashem, likewise.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hope you had a good Shabbat, everybody.
Yes.
Baruch Hashem, yes, we did.
Very nice. Okay. Here we go. Facebook. Very good. Now we do the screen share. Okay. Good. Okay. Yeah, so we are on Mem Gimel Zain, right, which is 7. Yeah, so we'll read this bit Yosef here. It says like this: the whole Zeh Maire Betakiseh Shebesadeh. All this that we mentioned, right, beforehand, is talking about bathroom in the field. About Shabbat, but when it comes to the house, Lo Yachnisem Klal, you shouldn't bring it in there at all. What do you need? You don't need that. So that applies to us, we have no reason to bring it into the bathroom. That's what it says in Sefer Truma. So this language of Sefer Truma, that's only when he's in the field. Because what's the reason why? He's afraid to place the tefillin there without supervision because it may get stolen. And he says the ravens also, whatever. Those pesky ravens. Okay, like it says, right? But if he's in the bathroom in his house, no, you allow, they shouldn't be on him at all. Why is that? Because you can place them in a place in his house which is guarded, so why would you want to bring it into the bathroom? Adkan, that's the end of the language there. V'gam, Rabbeinu Yerucham, also Rabbeinu Yerucham, he says. Katab the Bet HaKiseh Shel Bait, when it comes to the bathroom in the house, Lo Yachnisem, don't bring him there, it says, same thing. Im Nichnas Lipanot, if he's going there to do his duties, whatever, Ulachnis an the Bet HaKiseh, Ve'en Tzarich La'asot Tzarachav, Katab Rabbeinu. So what about just to bring him to the bathroom without doing your needs, right? Just to bring it in there, I don't know. Let's say you just want to place it there for a second. Should you do that? Is it allowed, not allowed? So he says that Katev Rabbeinu Hai, says Rabbeinu Hai, Shasu, not allowed to do that. But Tasot Katud Yafilu Bebet HaKiseh Kavua Mutar. Tasot says it's even allowed to do this in a permanent bathroom. Kivan She'eno sits because he's not doing anything there. Just walking in, walking out, whatever. Maybe he needs to get his hairbrush or whatever, right? So toothpaste. So he needs to go in there for a different reason. So he doesn't not doing anything there. So so I already wrote in the beginning. Simon's the beginning of this chapter. Shadat Arosh Gam Ken Datir. The Rosh is also opines to be lenient about this, taking it in there just for whatever reason. Latir Mikoma Kom says, but it says nevertheless. Says the Bet Yosef. Nachon Leizaher Kedat Rabbeinu Hai. You should better to be careful about that, not to take it in there. Like what's the purpose of it? Since it's a machloket, it's a dispute. You should be trying to be stringent because there's no need to take it in there. That's the idea. Also, there's another reason, right? Just to tell you, there is, in the Klalei Halacha, in the rules of Halacha, one of the rules is, by the way, the Rosh says himself, that Lo Cholkim al Gaon. You know what that means? We don't argue with the Geonim. The Geonim were like the period before the Rishonim. This was like more than 1,000 years ago. So these Geonim were, like on a higher level. So therefore, they're more authoritative. And one of the reasons why they're more authoritative is because there's several reasons, but one of them is like this, right? That all their words are masoret. They're all tradition they received from the Talmud, from the rabbis of the Talmud, since they were right after that period. So therefore, it's all tradition. It's not like just some kind of intellectual exercise. They made up their own rules. Kind of things like this, right? They were not into that. It was all tradition by them. It was all so therefore it's more authoritative. That's one reason why we don't argue with the Geonim. Number two, also there's another reason, which is that they just had like a great mastery over the Talmud that we don't have in later generations. That's also another reason why. So basically, right, not a good idea to argue with these people. But nevertheless, the Rishonim did find it possible to argue with them if they had sources in the Talmud to argue with them, and they did argue with them. But we certainly, should not argue with them. That's for sure. Even with the Rishonim, we shouldn't argue, obviously, right? That's already a ironclad rule. But basically, like we're looking at it like this, we have the Rabbi Gaon, who's he's a Gaon, and we have the Tosfot, who's a Rishon, and the Rosh, who's a Rishon. So it's better to go like the Gaon. That's what, basically the rule here. The Gaon takes precedence over the Rishon. In simple cases, but there are exceptions to that rule as well. Sometimes we pass like the Rishonim against the Geonim. When is that? When there's like a consensus, big majority that makes sense what they're saying, and everything has sources and so forth and so on. So then sometimes we do go like the Rishonim if that's the case. But in general, the words of the Geonim, right? We don't mess with that stuff. That's exactly what he's saying over here. Okay, good. So let's go on to the Shulchan Aruch. Zion. So it says in Shulchan Aruch, when was that said? All that we mentioned above, that was last week. That's in the bathroom in the field. But if it comes to a bathroom in the house, you shouldn't bring them in there at all. Because you can place them in a place which is guarded, which is your home. Hopefully, your home is guarded. You can lock the door, whatever, and so you're good. So therefore, there's no reason to bring them into the bathroom there. Okay, very good. Let's go on to Het. So as we already mentioned, right? Let's say a person forgot his tefillin on his head, and he went to the bathroom and used the bathroom like that, right? Defecated, and so what does he have to do? Comes from this Gemara, right, in Brachot, Kaf Amud Aleph. So we're going to see, right, he didn't really mention Halacha because it was already mentioned in the Torah. So we'll go straight to the Beit Yosef, the Shulchan Aruch, and we'll see it there. It says Shulchan Aruch like this: Im shachach tefillin berosho. Person forgot his tefillin on his head. And he went to the bathroom like that, defecated. Maniach yado alehem. So what should he do? He places his hand on them, until he finishes. Amud Arishon, the first the first drop that came out, and and comes out the chotzan, and then he takes them off. The chozer b'nichnas, and then he goes back in and finishes what he has to finish. That's what he should do. Okay, very good.
We just read that Brudia sent me an article, and it says that if they forgot, you just cover the tefillin. Very interesting. Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it says, right? To cover it with your hands. Yeah, that's what it says. But we don't even allow you to finish because it's not allowed to do that. So we tell you come out, take it off, and then go back in again. Because it's not really allowed to finish. Even though
And
you already started.
So what do you do after? I'm sorry to ask this question, Kavod Harav, but what do you do once you started and then you have to stop and then you have to take it off? You have to wash hands. How do you go about it? I know we spoke about this.
There's no reason to wash your hands. You just go, outside, and you take it off, and then come back in because you're going back to the bathroom. So there's really no reason to wash your hands.
Okay, thank you. And then once he has finished with the bathroom and wash hands and did Asher Yatzar and then
Yes.
put on the tefillin once more, he recites a blessing, yes?
Of course, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, God bless. So that's the story there. Let's go on to text. Right. Okay, so this is an interesting topic here. Brings here that Yosef, מצאתי כתוב בפסק הרשב"א בתשובה. So you found the tshuva of the Rashba, a response of the Rashba, that what? The מותר לרופא לקח ערבית של 100 רגליים. The doctor is allowed to take some kind of a what do you call it? A utensil which holds urine. And biado in his hands with tefillin birosho, and the tefillin can be in his hands. I'm sorry.
Like a urinal? Like a urinal? Perhaps?
Is that what they call it? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, urinal.
Okay,
Yes.
very good, very good. Okay. Very good, very nice. So it says right that okay. So he says right that you're allowed to do that even though you have a tefillin on your head. To have the betakise aray mutar leashtin. Because he says when it comes to a temporary bathroom, you are allowed to urinate like that. Kashen barashu when it's on your head. Even though the Torah forbade, when it comes to ואפילו בית הכיסא קבוע היינו מתירים. Right, so he's telling you, right, that I'll read this again one more time, get it clearly. Right, so it says that if it wasn't for the fact that the Torah forbade, corresponding to the I guess you want to call this the stream, whatever stuff coming out. Even in a bathroom, kavua, which is permanent, we would allow that. So we will allow that if it wasn't for the fact that we're afraid, he's also going to defecate. All the more so here, it's allowed. The kil harbe meod, because it's more lenient here. Why? Because he's not really doing something from his body; he's just carrying it, right? This utensil, whatever it is, right? The urinal, whatever, right? Bal nefesh lo yismoch al ze ad kan. So he says, but you know what? A person who's like God-fearing, they should not do this. So even though it's allowed to do so, but not exactly the greatest thing in the world, you know? So if you're one of those God-fearing people, right, so then try to avoid this kind of thing. Okay, let's see the Shulchan Aruch on this. Yeah, that's okay. We're finished. This chapter is finished. This was the last one here. So it says, "Mutar lerofe likach avid shel meraglaim." It's allowed for a doctor to take this urinal be'ado on his hands with tefillin b'lashon, and he has tefillin on his head. Ubal nefesh yachmir latzmo. But he says the person who's God-fearing try to avoid this kind of thing. Okay, yeah, makes sense. So we're done with this chapter. Let's go to the next one, which is Mem Daled. So we're almost finished with the whole tefillin thing. See where we are here. Yeah, okay, let's go on. So, 2 more chapters. This one is short. So, this is the Shulchan Aruch, but I got to bring up the first Torah. Says the Torah like this: Asur lishon b'hem afilu shinat tarai. This is an important chapter. It's quite practical. So, as we said, right, you're not allowed to sleep with the tefillin on, even to take a nap. כשאוחזן בידו, when he's holding it in his hand. אבל כשאין בראשו, but if it's on his head, פורס עליהם סודר. So what can you do? Right, spread over it a handkerchief, and then you're allowed to sleep. Shinat tarai, like a nap like that. It's not considered to be like you're diverting your attention. That's interesting. Oh wow. So it says it's only considered like you're diverting your attention if you're getting like lightheaded, making jokes and stuff like that, and acting silly. That's considered like diverting your attention. But just falling asleep in a nap, as long as you put that handkerchief on top, it's okay, right? So it says the Rambam Zakatav. The Rambam says the afilu shinat keva, says even a permanent sleep, right? Which is like in a bed. That means you're lying down in bed. Keshem berosho, when it's on his head. I'm sorry. Keshem biado, when it's in his hands. Mutar, you're allowed to do that. But it says the Rosh didn't write this way. Okay, so that's the tour. Let's go to Bet Yosef. That's the whole chapter. So it says Bet Yosef. So it says Misha Meto, right? It's over there, and this source is over there. Brachot Chav Gimel Amud Bet. Tanu Rabbanan. Rabbis taught Lo yochaz adam tefillin biado. Person shouldn't hold his tefillin in his hands, but Sefer Torah bizra'o, or the Sefer Torah in his arm, palel, and pray like that. But Lo yashtin b'hem, also not to urinate with them. But Lo yashin b'hem, also not to sleep with them. Lo shinat keva, but Lo shinat b'ray. Doesn't matter whether it's permanent sleep or temporary sleep, right? Which is a nap. Rabbi Yonah wrote this halacha, Be'arosh and the Rosh, Tafka Kashem Biado. That's only in his hands. But Kashem Berosho, but when it's in his head, Mutar Lishon B'hem, you're allowed to sleep with it. Shinat Arai, like take a nap like that. Kedamina Besukkah, like we say in Sukkah, and Niknas Lishon, person goes in to sleep, B'yom in the daytime, Ratzah Choletz, Ratzah Maniach. he can just leave the tefillin on or take it off, whatever he wants. Okay. Goes on. But when it's in his hands, so what does that mean in his hands, by the way? That means he's holding it like in his hands, Not that it's on his arm, like the way you put the tefillin on. He's not saying that. That means he's holding it in his hands. And you know what the danger is, right? It could like fall out, just he opens his hands and it falls. So it's dangerous, to go to sleep like that. It's like, you're taking a big risk there, rolling the dice. But he says to sleep with them, to take a nap with them, you're not allowed to do that. Because maybe it's going to fall out of your hands, as we said, right? That's what we're worried about. If you're going to ask me, how is taking a nap allowed with tefillin on? How can you do that? But isn't it forbidden to divert your thoughts from them? Right? So he says at the time that he's like dozing off, he's already like diverting his attention from them. So how can he do that? So he answers, there is this answer. It's not really called diverting your attention away from it, unless he's like joking around, being lightheaded, if he's just like dozing off, that's not really called diverting your attention. Because he forgets about the mundane things in the world. In other words, when a person is sleeping, he's not having mundane thoughts, he's just sleeping. So therefore, there's not any bad thoughts going on there. Okay, good. So then he goes on. It says over there in this Masechet Sukkah, Kaf Vav Amud Aleph, Tane Chada Yashen Adam b'Tefillin Shinat Arai. One Braita says you can sleep with the tefillin with take a nap. But not in the bed. Tanya Idach, and the other Braita says Ben Keva Ben Arai, whether it's napping or sleeping in the bed, it's not allowed. The Tanya Idach, there's another Braita that says Lo Keva Velo Arai. So the first one we just read now, the second one says you can do either way, whether you're in the bed or you're napping, it's allowed. This one says it's not allowed either way, whether you're napping or sleeping in the bed. So how do we have this discrepancy here with these braitot, each one saying something else? So it says, Gemara says, no problem. We can reconcile them. One is talking about that he's holding it in his hand. One is talking about he has it on his head. And one is talking about when he spreads the handkerchief on it. So it says, how much? Says this rabbi, but you can sleep that much. The time that it takes to go 100 amot, which is not really a lot of time. It's like a couple of minutes. Interesting. Okay, so let's see the Rashi. Upside. Rashi explains the nakit lehu bideh. He's holding it in his hands. So if he's holding it in his hands, he can't sleep nap or even in the bed as well. Because why? We're concerned it's going to fall out of his hands. This we don't want. One is talking about that it's on his head. And I mutar. So there, a nap is allowed. But in the bed it's forbidden. Why is it forbidden in the bed? Because he may come to pass wind, pass gases. Okay, so then he goes on. The pari suda alayu. One is talking about that he spreads a handkerchief on it, on his head. Tefillin. That means that he put it next to his head, right? It's not on his head. Ben keva ben arai delonitna Torah. So that's allowed, whether it's permanent sleep in the bed or we're talking about a nap. Either way, it's allowed. Why is that? Because it's not on his head, so therefore we don't really have any issues there. It's just like by his side somewhere. But to ita, so he says, why do we allow that? So he says the Torah wasn't given to angels. You know what I mean? In other words, we're human beings. So you have to give us some leeway. To do what we have to do in life. Don't make us crazy. We're not angels, right? So that's why the rabbis are try to be lenient as possible with people. So he goes on and says, "But tu ita hatam tanu." It says further on there, "Tanu banan ochrim achidat arai chutz lesukkah." Another thing it says over there in the Braita is that you're allowed to eat a snack outside of the sukkah. On Sukkot we're talking about, right? Obviously. But we're not allowed to take a nap outside the sukkah. So meaning what? Every time you sleep on Sukkot, it has to be in the sukkah, right? We already know that women are not obligated to be in the sukkah, right? So we're talking about men. Obviously, right? So there you go. My Tama, what's the reason why? Rabbi Sheh, this is Rabbi Sheh, Gezerah Shema Yaradem, because we're afraid he's going to come to go fall asleep. Amar Abaye. Abaye tells him, Ela ha the Tanya, but that which we learned in the Baita, Yashen Adam, Shinat Arai B'Tfilin, that a person was allowed to sleep, take a nap with tefillin on, Aval Lo Shinat Kiva, but not in the bed. Lichu Shema Yaradem, we should also be concerned that he's going to fall asleep. What does that mean? He's going to go into bed. This rabbi answers, named Rabbi Yochanan, Maniach Rosho ben Berechav. So one is talking about that he puts his head right between his knees. In other words, he puts his head down on his legs. Rabbi Amar en kevash deshina. So says Rabbi, there's really no permanence for sleep. Rashi explains this whole Gemara. Iradem, what does that mean? The problem is we're concerned that he may just sleep permanently. So as we said, right, sleeping permanently could be for a long time as well, because we said there's a limit of time you can sleep like this. Between his knees, right? He won't fall asleep like that. He's not comfortable like that. When he's bending down like that, and putting his head on his legs, on his thighs, whatever. Rabbi says, we're not concerned that he's going to fall asleep like that. Therefore, when it comes to tefillin, it's allowed. It says, what about sukkah? What's the reason why we don't allow that? Because you're not allowed to take a nap outside the sukkah on the sukkot. Because there's no real permanence to sleep. In other words, any amount of sleep was beneficial to a person who's tired. So there's no differentiation between permanent sleep and temporary. Goes on. Okay. When it comes to sukkah, that person doesn't really have permanence in sleep there. So he just takes a little nap there. But dayon, that's enough for him. It's good for him. Says therefore it says zohi shinato. That's the sleep over there in the sukkah. But when it comes to tefillin, the ta'ama shemi afiach b'hem. The reason over there is because it may come to pass wind, the gases. But lab b'shum isur shina benayim purta. So it says that's not because of the prohibition of sleep. Lo ate lideh. He just sleeps a little bit temporarily. He's not going to come to pass gases like that. Okay, I'm going to show you. Katav Ran, says the Ran, the Shem Raza, the name of the Raza, the Kanach Lota Baito Delel Okimna Lehu. So it says, according to these three Braito that we just mentioned, qualified, Chada Benaki Teleu Bideh. One is talking about it's holding in his hand. Kaimana, that's how we pass it says. Like these three Braito that we mentioned, we qualified them. Even though the Rif didn't write this in halachot there, but it says, I saw one of the rabbis of the generation, he writes, the law samchinan ahane matnita, we don't rely on this braita at all. But we pass like Rabbi Yanai, samchinan, it says, the Amar, we rely on that. Where is that? In Shabbat. Memtet Amud Aleph, Tefillin, Tzechin, Guf Naki. He says over there, the tefillin requires a clean body. Kirisha Baal, can I find like this rabbi or whatever, this holy rabbi? The Perushu Abaye, the rabbi explained, Rabbi, שלא יפיח בהם, Rabbi, שלא יפיח בהם, we're afraid that they shouldn't come to pass wind in them, ושלא ישן בהם, they shouldn't sleep with them. כל שינה במשמע, so that implies any kind of sleep. Ben keva ben arai, whether it's permanent or temporary. Katab, so he says, Katab alav Ravad, says the Ravad regarding that, Shafel Katab oto hachacham. So he says that Chacham wrote properly about this, Ela shelo piresh kol tzaracha tzorko. But he says, he didn't explain everything very well. He was a little bit vague there, right? V'atam lefi she'en anu yicholim l'sha'er. So he says the reason is because we're not able to measure kedei hiluch mea ama, the amount of time that it takes to walk 100 amot. Tukach says en yeshanin b'hem klal. So therefore we don't sleep with them at all. Kishen berosho, when they're on his head. V'chol shekin kishen be'ado, and all the more so when they're in his hands. Aval the pari suda alayim, when he spreads a handkerchief over it, manicho betzido, and puts it on his side, mutar lishon kol shida, then he can sleep as much as he wants. Kedita beberachot. It's in the brachot, Chavdal Daun Aleph. Manicham ben kar keset, he puts them between the pillow and the cushion, the mattress, whatever. Shelo keneged rosho, as long as it's not under his head. Davar zeh kabar is kiro arav bebrachot. We already mentioned this in brachot. Then tzorech le'elu braytot. So we don't need these braytot to learn from them. That's the end of that. Tomash v'gam ha detanya. So that means to say that even that which we learn in the brayta, techi nakit lehu b'yedeh, when he holds in his hands, lo yashen behem, you shouldn't sleep with them. Lo shinat keva v'lo shinat arai, whether it's permanent or temporary sleep. Kabar is kira b'perek misha meto. We already mentioned over there in brachot. Tanu Rabbanan, lo yochaz adam tefillin. It says over there like this: person shouldn't hold his tefillin in his hand. As we said, lo yashen behem, you shouldn't sleep with them. Lo shinat keva v'lo shinat arai, whether it's permanent or temporary sleep. Rabbeinu Yonah be'arosh shepasku kishem berosho. And he says, these rabbis that said that when it's on his head, Yashen B'hem, you can sleep with them, Shinat Arai, temporary sleep, Kemosh Katabti, like we wrote about. Tema, he says, it's a wonder. Lama lo katvo, Shiur Shinat Katvu, Shiur Shinat Arai. Why didn't they write the amount of time that it takes that we say we allow for temporary sleep, for a nap? Kamai, Vefshar, they didn't write that amount, right? 100 amot. Vefshar, the sabe, it's possible that they hold, you don't go like that brighter, and therefore they didn't bring that time limit of 100 amot, walking 100 amot. Okay. The Tana Yashen Behem Shinat Arai, because it says, right, that you're allowed to sleep with them in the brighter. This brighter, it says you're allowed to sleep with them temporary sleep. Lo shinat keva, but not permanent. But it's rather we go like this brighter. If a person is coming in to sleep in the daytime, if he's coming in daytime to sleep, either he can take it off or leave it on, whatever he wants. He has a choice to do either one. But when it comes to the night, he has to take it off. There's no choice. He has to take it off. Rashi explains the Okay, sorry, I lost you guys there. One more time.
We're here.
Okay. Okay. You're more reliable than the Zoom. Okay. So it says again, right? To pick up where we left off there, that when it comes to the night, when go sleep at night. So Rashi explains what's the difference between day and night, because a person sleeps in the daytime as a nap, doesn't usually sleep with his wife, but only shon kebam, and also right, and doesn't doesn't go into bed, to permanent sleep. So therefore, we can either leave it on or take it off, whatever he wants. But when it comes to the light, though, when it comes to the night, so then you should take it off, even for a nap. Because we're afraid that he may come to change his mind and then do permanent sleep, go to bed. And the reason why they paskin in the Baita, 1 second, I'm sorry, yeah. the reason why they paskin is because Mishum Demashma Atam, because it implies over there that Rabbi Yosef Sabar Hachi, that Rabbi Yosef holds like this way. The Hilchata Kevaten, Halacha is like them. The Nukoyimo, right? So it says in Masechet Gitin, Samech Zayin Amud Aleph, that when Rabbi Yossi argues with his friends, the halacha is always like him. Why is that? Because he brings a lot of supports and he brings a lot of sources and supports for his opinions. So therefore, we go like him. So it says, "Ve'viani lomar ken mipnei shekratzu Rabbeinu Yonah be'arosh Davi." So he says. He brought me to say this because when they wanted the Rabbeinu Yonah, the Rosh, to bring this a source from this, Kishem Berosho, when they're said Yashin Mem is allowed to sleep with them, Shinat a nap. Have you? That's what we brought regarding that. Had Tanya, that which we learned in Baita, and Yichnas Lishon Bayom, the person who's coming in to sleep in the daytime, Ratzal Choletz Ratzal Maniach. So either way, he has a choice, right? You can take it off or leave it on in the daytime. As we said, and he didn't bring it from that which we qualified. That which we said, right? The person is not to sleep with them, permanent, temporary. Right? There's a nap. When he puts them on his head, well, if he says, according to this, we have to say that which these two rabbis explained. And this Braita, he sleeps with them temporarily. Not because they hold like him really. They just want to reconcile the words. You shouldn't ask, right? You shouldn't conflict these two brightot. The teachers they will not allow sleep, take a nap outside the sukkah, one against the other. Shouldn't contrast them one to the other. Or according to this, it says, according to this opinion, we have to say, Shemash Katva Rabbeinu Yonah Ve'arosh, that which these two rabbis wrote, Kishem Berosho, that when it's on his head, Yashen Ben is allowed to sleep with them, Arai, temporarily, Kedamina Besukkah, like we said in Sukkah, and Ichnas Lishon Beyom, person comes in to sleep daytime, Hachi Perusho, this one means to say, Mutar Lishon Behem Shinat Arai, you're allowed to sleep temporarily with them. Yom, that means in the daytime. Like we say in Sukkah, so he says the rule is that anytime you sleep in the daytime is considered like a nap. But in the night it's considered to be permanent. Rambam says in the fourth parak of the Tefillin, Halacha Tetvav Tet Zayin, Tefillin Sechin Guf Naki. It says like this Rambam, right? That the Tefillin needs a clean body. Requires a clean body. So what does that mean? He shouldn't pass wind, right? Pass gas. When he's wearing tefillin, calls man shem alav, as long as he's wearing the tefillin. The Fichach says, therefore, asur lishon behem lo shinat tcheva v'lo shinat tarai. So therefore, you're not allowed to sleep with them temporarily or permanently. Unless you put a handkerchief on them. And his wife is not with him. Right? So then he can take a nap like that. How does he do it? He puts his head down, right, on his thighs, right? Whatever. And he's sitting. He's not lying down. And he sleeps like that. But if the tefillin was just like wrapped in his hands, you're allowed to sleep with them. Even permanently, that's you're allowed to do. That's what it says in Rambam. The end of the Rambam. He talks about it, says from his words you see, that which they qualified, those three brightot that we mentioned. One is talking about when he's holding in his hand. One is talking about he spread a handkerchief over them. And one is talking about he has to put on his head. That it means to say like this, that he can, like we learned Braita, that you can sleep with them, ben keva ben arai, whether it's permanent or temporary, b'denakit lehu b'yedeh, he's holding in his hand, klomar shehem kruchim yafeh be'ado. That means when they're wrapped up in his hand. So once they're wrapped up in the hand, we're not concerned that it's going to fall out of his hands because it's wrapped. So therefore it's allowed. We're not going to concern that you're going to fall when he sleeps. That doesn't resemble that which the Rabbi said in the Baita. They shouldn't hold the tefillin in his hands and sleep like that. Because there it's talking about something else. You're holding the tefillin without having it wrapped on your hands. So therefore it's more dangerous. You may fall out when you fall asleep. You shouldn't sleep with them. And that which it says that over there. You shouldn't either do permanent or temporary sleep like that. That's talking about his head. On his head. Now which it says you're allowed to temporarily sleep on them, but not permanent. But that's talking about it's on his head. But there's also a handkerchief just spread on top of it. That's the so it says, what about the time that permanent temporary sleep, like what is the maximum temporary sleep? So it says he holds it just like Rabbi Yochanan Palik of the Tani Rabbi Bachizkel. Rabbi Yochanan is arguing with this, and that which was taught to Rabbi Bachizkel. So he holds the Rabbi lo ifligale, but Rabbi is not arguing with him. The Rabbi Yochanan Ella with Rabbi Yochanan Ella b'may the mashma the barav, only that which midbarav, that which is implied from his words. The had the katane, because that which he teaches en yeshanin arai, that which I said that we're not allowed to do temporary sleep with the tefillin. Who's the sukkah outside the sukkah? I'm sorry, not the tefillin. Sukkah. Kishenu maniach rosho ben beracha. That's talking about when he didn't put his head between his thighs. But if he does put his head down between his thighs, yeshanim, then we can sleep. Who's the sukkah outside the sukkah? The lete. This is not true, by the way. We don't pass like that. The gabe sukkah if you don't maniach rosho. That when it comes to sukkah, even if you put your head down between your legs, lo yashen, you shouldn't sleep like that. Who's the sukkah outside the sukkah? Mishum the en keva l'shina, because the sleep doesn't have like a fixed amount. Kobar she'en adam kovea l'shina, because a person doesn't. What that means is that a person doesn't always decide, how much to sleep. What does that mean? He just like takes a little nap sometimes, but that's enough for him, right? He gets energized by that. Says therefore this is his sleep that he needs. But that which is differentiated with tefillin between one who puts it on his head, he puts his head on between his legs. That doesn't put it. Modele ken ireli. So it says there he doesn't admit to him. That's what it seems to me. Bagaot Maimoni says this rabbi katab b'shem Ramach. He wrote the name of this rabbi. Should have dat Rambam. According to Rambam, hadatan Rabbanan lo yochaz v'dam. That which the rabbi said. The person shouldn't hold tefillin biyado in his hand. Lo shouldn't be sleep with them like that. Lo shenat kibbutz, lo shenat arai. Whether it's temporary or permanent sleep. Tzarich litchok ufaresh. We have to push and say the lo yashen v'lo. We shouldn't sleep with them. Lo ela yachaz beresh deresha. It's only talking about holding it in your hands, like we talked in the beginning. So it's something else altogether there. The answer the so he says you don't have to push it like that, force it like that. Rather, that Braita is talking about that they're not wrapped in his hands. He like we already explained. He also writes there, furthermore, that when it comes to temporary sleep, right, in the Perek of Yashin, Perish Kama Shinat Arai explains over the Gemara how much is called a temporary sleep. Right? Kadesh Yalech Adam Me'ama, the time that it takes to go 100 amot. The Rambam doesn't agree with that, he says. Otherwise, he would have mentioned it. He didn't mention that. So therefore, he says, whatever I wrote is the main concept here, the main opinion. Katab Aitu, says the Aitu. The end Lomar Ken the data. I'm sorry, I didn't write it. 1 second. Yeah. Hadi Amina, that which we say, They shouldn't pass wind with them. That's only when they're his head. But when they're in the bag, look how pashut. They didn't talk about that pashut. So he says that's clear, right? In other words, there's no prohibition to hold the tefillin. When a person is passing wind, passing gas, only when he's actually wearing the tefillin. That's where the prohibition comes in. Okay, very good. So we're done with that. Let's see the Shulchan Aruch. Let's see. We're finished. We're wrapping up this chapter here. So then we have only one more chapter left. So we're almost done with Tefillin. Okay. So let's see the Shulchan Aruch here. There's only one Shulchan Aruch. Calls man Tefillin Berosho. Says all the while Tefillin is on his head, or his arm. Asur Lishon Behem. You're not allowed to sleep with them like that. Even temporary. Unless he puts his handkerchief on top. And also there's no woman there with him. There's not going to be any sexual activity. Right? Then you can sleep with them. You can do temporary sleep, right? As we said. Yeah. So it seems like what we came up with in the end was that temporary sleep means like he puts his head down on his legs. Okay, we'll see a little bit more about that. But anyway, Kitzad will say, how should he do? Maniach Rosho, exactly right. He says he puts his head he puts his head down on his thighs. He sleeps like that. So why do we care if he puts his head down like that? Because that he can't sleep comfortably like that. So then he's not going to go into a permanent sleep like that. The tefillin is but if the tefillin is wrapped in his hands, mutar lishon bahem afilu shinat tegila. So then you can sleep with them even permanent. If he's holding them in his hands, but they're not wrapped in his hands. Asur lishon bahem. You're not allowed to sleep with them afilu shinat even temporary sleep. Okay, so it says the Rama here. That's only if he's holding them without the bag. But if it's in the bag, then it's allowed in any case. I'm going to review the Shulchan Aruch here. I read a little bit fast, so we can get all the details down. One more time. So it says like this, right? Calls man shet tefillin berosho. All the while that his tefillin is on his head, or bizra'o, on his arm, asur lishon bahem afilu shinat right. You're not allowed to sleep with even temporary sleep like that. Elaim hiniach malem sudar velo hiniach imo isha. Right time isha. So there's two conditions, right, that we allow you to do that. One is to put a handkerchief on top, to cover them with a handkerchief, and also your wife is not with you there. So then, in a case like that, Yashem ben Yishnat Ara, you're allowed to do temporary sleep like that, if that's the case. Just give me 1 second. I just wanted to get this language down here. Right, so in other words, what saves you is two things right here. Two things allows you to do this. One is that you will have a handkerchief on top of them, they're covered, and the other one is that there's no woman there. So, okay, good. So let's just write one question I want to ask you here. What difference does it make that a person puts the handkerchief on top? What does that help you? I'm going to look over here in the commentaries here. See what they say. We have here Mishnah Brura. Let's see Mishnah Brura, what it says.
Wouldn't that have to do with the kli, with a handkerchief? No.
I'm sorry. What was it again?
With the handkerchief, part of the kli,
I'm sorry. I didn't understand you.
Like giving that the handkerchief might be one of the cleats that the tefillin might be protected, or no?
No, a handkerchief is not really considered to be a kli.
Okay,
I mean, what I mean to say is it's not a bag.
it's not a bag. No, I
Right,
understand
it's not a
that.
bag, just you're covering it. That's all, like you cover yourself when you sleep, like with a blanket,
Uh-huh. So
So
the same for the tefillin.
so it's not going into a kli that's filling. It's just being covered,
Okay,
right?
thank you.
So okay, so let me just see what it says here. It goes, Shimon, right. So it says the Mishnah Berurah explains the reason we want the handkerchief on you is because this reminds you not to pass wind. Okay, it's a
So it's a
reminder.
reminder.
It's,
It
a,
is
it's
a
a convenient reminder. Okay. Any
Yes.
comments on that one? Okay. We'll be glad to take any comments you have. All right, so so then we go on. That's what we need about the handkerchief. The same thing, right? As we said regarding putting your head, but on your legs, right? That's also supposed to like prevent you from sleeping permanently, right? Let's see what the Mishnah Berurah says about that. That's how we saw in the Bet Yosef and Shulchan. Right, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it says. Like we saw in the Bet Yosef, that we're afraid he's going to go into a permanent sleep, So therefore, right, we tell him to sleep this way, which is hard. It's not a comfortable position. So therefore, he won't fall asleep. Interesting. Okay. The question is what about if he puts his head down on the table? Is that considered comfortable?
Not at all. No.
When I was in the kollel, even nowadays, sometimes I fall asleep on my stender, and I can go like 2-3 hours like that, no problem. I have no problem with that. So it is quite comfortable, actually. I mean, relatively speaking, right? It's not like being in a bed, obviously, but it's relatively more comfortable. But when you have your head down on your legs, it's like you're sitting like a gymnast, like your body's very flexed out. So you can't really get comfortable like that. That's the whole thing, So it seems like on the table will not be good enough. Right? Only we're talking about if you put your head down on your legs, which is like really, awkward. It's an awkward position. Okay. Good. So let's go on with the Shulchan Aruch here. So what about if the tefillin was wrapped in his hand, right? In other words, he took the strap and he wrapped it up like that. So this way, it's like it won't fall out, right? That's why we say that. Then then you're allowed to even sleep permanently like that. So why is that? Because we're not afraid of anything here. We're not afraid that you're gonna go into a permanent sleep, because we don't care, even if you do, right? It doesn't really bother us, because you're not really wearing the tefillin, it's just wrapped on you, on your hand, So it's not really placed in the right place. So you're not really wearing it in the right way. This is the reason why we don't care so much. And also, we're not concerned that it's going to fall from you, because it's wrapped, and the wrapping will guard it from falling out. So therefore, the wrapping is the best way, right? Today we don't need any of this, but in those days, right, people had all kinds of interesting variations in their life, all kinds of things, variables, all kinds of interesting variables that we don't have today. But it says if he's just holding in his hand, but they're not tied in his hand, they're not wrapped up. Then you're not able to do a snap, because why? We're concerned it's going to fall out of your hands like that. You're going to open up your hand, boom. Oh, what's that? My tefillin is on the floor. So we don't want that, right? That's the whole thing. Good. Says the Rama, right? The dafka keshulchazim below nitakan. So that's only when you're holding it without the bag. Oh, avad benitakan the whole inyan shareh. But once it's in the bag, you're okay. You're good. So why is that, by the way? What does the bag help you? Because what happens is that the bag is like a domain by itself, you know. So therefore, even if it does fall, or you did pass some gas, it's not like you're wearing it, or or it's like it's barely open tefillin. It's in the bag, so it's like a separate domain. That's the whole thing. So we're not really concerned so much. That's what he's saying, the Rama. So the Rama brings this from the Bet Yosef, right? And the name of the Itur. So we already read this over there, but he's giving you a pleasant reminder over here, right? That's what it says there. Okay, very good. So maybe we have time to finish this chapter. Let's see what we got left here. We got like 5 more minutes. Let's see what we can manage. I'm sorry, we are finished the chapter. Let's see the next chapter. That's what I meant to say. This chapter is done. Okay, good. One more. One more chapter. Let's see what's going on over here with this chapter. This is an interesting one. Oh, okay. It's talking about going into the with the tefillin into the cemetery. Let's see what we can get from that. We already talked about this before a little bit. Covered it somewhat. Okay, let's see. This is the last chapter of tefillin. All right. So it says like this, right? Asuri kanes behind bet hakvarot latoch zad amot shel met. It says the tour. You're not allowed to go into a cemetery with tefillin on. We already mentioned this, right? And also within 4 amot, 6 feet of the dead body. Kishen berosho, when they're wearing it on your head. Bet merchatz, right? Bet hachitzon. What about what about going into the bathhouse, right? Like the mikveh is a bathhouse, right? So what's the story there? So it says in the outer room where people are dressed over there, like where the mikveh lady sits there, that's the outer room. You can put tefillin on there, no problem, right? Because nobody's naked over there, right? They're all dressed. Everybody's dressed over there. Everybody's decent there, so no problem. Inside. What about the middle room, right? That's the more people are like some of them are already undressed over there, right? That's the way it was arranged in those days. The bathhouse. There was like 3 compartments there. So what about the middle room? You shouldn't put them over there because there are people who are not dressed there. But if they were already in his head, you don't have to take them off. What about the inner room, right? That inner room, everybody's naked there, right? Everybody's going to the bath. So everybody's naked. So what happens over there? Right? So there, even if it was on his head, he has to remove them because you can't walk around, and watch naked people when you're wearing tefillin, right? It's not decent, not proper. Obviously, okay. Good. So that's the tour. Let's see, Bet Yosef. It's quite short. This whole affair here. So it says the Bet Yosef. Pashut resh pek mishameto. It's over there. It says in the this Gemara, right in Yud Chet Amud Aleph in Brachot. Tama mishum dehaver lo eglash. As we already explained, right? You don't go into the cemetery because you're taunting the dead like that. They can't do the mitzvot, and you can, So they get jealous of you, You're taunting them. Says we already wrote in chapter 23 the mashma the daka tefillin shel rosh asur. Only the tefillin of the rosh is really forbidden, not the arm. And what's the reason why? Mishum the mitchazu, because it's visible, In other words, it's open. Everybody sees the tefillin of their head, but the tefillin of the arm is covered, with your sleeve, so it's not really visible. Oh, okay. But it says the tefillin of the arm since it's covered, you're not really taunting the dead like that because they don't see it. In other words, it's covered. Bashar, just before it's allowed. Bashil Rosh Nami, also the head. He says Im Kisaota Nitlaman. This is also the head. If he covers it with something, he can go into the cemetery like that. So what can he do, right? According to this, let him put a hat on, right? And cover the head, tefillin, and you can go into the cemetery like that, right? So that would be fine. Okay, very good. So that's the first one. Let's see Shulchan Aruch here. I think we could probably knock this off today. The whole tefillin affair. Okay, believe it or not. So it says in Shulchan Aruch, Asur likanes lebet hakvarot, right? A person not allowed to go into the cemetery, or betoch arba amot shel met, or 4 amot of the dead body, right? With tefillin berosho, and he's got tefillin on his head. Mishum doeg darash, because he's taunting them, he's chiding them like that, right? But it says if they're covered, mutar, you're allowed to do, right? So by the way, it implies from here that if they're covered, it's allowed, as we said, right? That means that we're not really so concerned about the straps, because the straps may not be covered, So we're really concerned about the boxes, the capsules. But the straps, it seems like it's no big deal, because the main mitzvah of the tefillin is the box, the capsule. I guess that's the reason why. Let's see if the Mishnah Berurah talks about this for a second. So let's see if he covers that. No, says the Mishnah Berurah not like that. He says they should also be covered, the straps. So he says no, he's machmir, right? He's stringent about that. He brings the Taz over here, who says that even the straps have to be covered. But the truth is, from the language of the Shulchan Aruch, it doesn't imply like that. So I think there may be some machloket here a little bit on this, right? It seems like the Taz, which the Mishnah Berurah is bringing, is more stringent than the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, interesting. So we'll go now to Bet. Let's see what's going on with Bet. Okay, so this was the Bet Yosef. So it says Bet Yosef that regarding the bathhouse, as we said, right, the outer room, the middle room, the inner room, right, all this stuff. So he explains like this, right, that Braita B'sof Perek Kamad de Shabbat. It's right in the first, in the end of the first Perek of Shabbat, Yud Amud Aleph. It says over there, what's the outer room of the bathhouse? Everybody's dressed over there in the outer room, right? That's why you pay with a credit card, everybody's dressed. So bedtime, but in the middle room, some people are standing, sham, right? Some people are dressed, some people are not dressed. It's like it's a changing room, you change over there. But the inner room,